Yeah, look at that. Isn't that nice? Well, how long did that take? No time at all. That tool is ready to rock. Hey, it's Greg here with MaritimeGardening.com. It's the dead of winter, and I'm doing a little bit of the less glamorous aspect of gardening, and that is a little bit of tool maintenance. So I just thought I'd show you how easy it is to take a handful of items and just bring them back up to bring them back up to spec. Not a lot of work, doesn't take a lot of time. All you need is a little turpentine, little linseed oil, a little paint, and a little bit of elbow grease. So first up on the list is this Dutch hoe, which I don't use very much, but it's very much out of maintenance. You can see the wood kind of looks lousy, and this here's got a bit of rust, and so on and so forth. So first step, now this here the wood on this came varnished, which you never want. And I never removed the varnish, which I should have. So it's really not that sophisticated. I got a file here, not a file, a chisel here, and I'm just going to use the side of the chisel because it's nice and sharp, right? I wouldn't want to use the actual edge on the chisel; it would wreck it. But I'm just going to use this to scrape the varnish off of this thing here. Well, I mean, I could use some sort of strong paint remover, but I find that to be very unpleasant. This is, I mean, I have an office job, so at the end of the day, I come home and have supper. I need to do something physical, or I feel like I'm going to go crazy, sitting in a chair all day. So this fits the bill. This is, it's not the same thing as doing reps at a gym, but so all I'm doing here is just running the edge of this chisel along the wood to try to bring it back to the bare wood that's underneath. The wood on this looks awful, but the wood underneath is actually in reasonably good shape. So I mean, we're almost half done here. And I'll just finish this little section here. I'll show you the difference. I'll try to make a stark contrast here, so you can see the difference up close. There. So right there you can see scrape down the way it was, right? So I mean, we're getting there, just going to need a couple more minutes. So bear with me here. I'll bring it back in a couple minutes. Alright, so look at all that material that I took off of there. I mean, that's the old varnish and all that rubbish. Just sort of clear that off. Cut my finger in the process and jammed it on the end of this damn thing. But anyway, it wasn't that bad a cut, but I felt the tip of my finger go pop. Anyway, things happen. Alright, so there's that. Now I just need to take... where's the sandpaper here? Oh, sandpaper. I don't know what grit this is. Seems a bit fine to me. Take a bit of sandpaper. You can take this is just cheap dollar store stuff. Just wrap it around a sanding sponge like that. Let's get rid of that thing out of the way. run it down like that. Just run my hand down here, feel for anything strange. Don't really feel anything. I'll give it one more quick once over. So I don't know what proportion of the varnish I've gotten off here. And just for those of you who don't know, this is like what they call a combination rasp, I think. It's got a curved side and a flat side and two different, you know, coarsenesses. So, I mean, I could go over the whole thing with this. It really depends on how perfect you want it. I needed it to do this little end piece here. I got most of that off, you know. So I think I've done a pretty good job. Probably not perfect, but a pretty good job of getting all that off. So now the next thing to do, what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint this little bit here black. And then I'm going to linseed oil this. That's all I'm going to do. I just got some basic black rust paint. And I love this stuff. It's so useful and versatile for so many things. Doesn't take much at all. You don't need a fancy brush either. It's just a dollar store brush. You just put a lick of paint on there to sort of clean that up. I wouldn't bother putting it on the blade part, because that's, you know, basically the working part. Really no point. I mean, you can if you want. You can do it, you know, partially, or, you know, whatever, but it's not really, I mean, a lot of it's going to come off, right, through use. I find as tools get aged and they rust and the wood loses color and so on and so forth, they become easier to misplace. They just don't stand out. I mean, you know, the more rusty and the more weathered they look, the more, you know, the more natural they look, right? They sort of look like everything else in your garden. And so they don't stand out the same way they would if you've got, you know, nicely linseed oiled wood, nice dark black metal, shiny, you know, sharpened metal, you know, sharpened edge. All those little things really distinguish, you know, the whatever the item is, right? So I mean, it's just a good thing to do this time of year. It's not really garden season yet, but you're kind of getting your head in the game a little bit and thinking things through. And you know, I don't know, I find it's just part of, just like before fishing season, I like to take all my gear out, you know, get it a little bit organized, throw away old stuff, you know, clean things out, just get geared up sort of thing, right? I mean, it's only February, but, you know, this is the sort of thing, some people do this stuff in the fall here, but, you know, I throw a lick of paint on the gear, and then once this is all dried, I'll sharpen it up. I don't actually use this tool very often, but I do, sometimes I use it, but very rarely. It's for very specific things. I normally don't need a hoe. I don't do weeding that way, but sometimes there are some situations where it's necessary. Okay, so that's, you know, that's nice. Nice and black, right? I think this is a flat black, but it'll be nice and consistently black, right? So, I find with a combination of, you know, I mean, I don't measure this out perfectly, but sort of like half turpentine, half linseed oil, you get better penetration and it dries a lot faster. And you can use a rag to put it on. What I like to do is I like to brush it on and make sure I've got, you know, a good solid coating. Let's just clean that off here because I'm getting rubbish on my thing there. But get a good solid coating, and then just remove a bit with a rag. I'm going to leave, so the last little bit of the handle here I'm going to leave because I'm going to paint that. I don't know if you noticed in my videos, but many of the handles of my tools I have painted the last little bit of the handle, like let's say the last 3 inches. I tend to paint a bright color like orange. And that's just if, you know, sometimes you get distracted. I mean, I've got a wife and I got kids, and sometimes they call me for whatever reason, and I set a tool down and then I don't see it for months. So over the years I've developed a system of just, you know, making a part of everything bright orange so that it's easy to see. Okay, now so I'm just going to take this rag here and wipe it down like that. Now this has to be, you know, set somewhere to dry. Now I get a little bit of sawdust on the black there, so I'll just touch that up like that. That's it. Okay, so now it looks well, just like new. And I mean, this tool probably cost me when I bought it maybe $50 at the time. I've had this for years because I used to hoe and weed my garden regularly. I don't do that so much anymore, but once in a while I actually do use this tool in certain operations. So, you know, it's still in great shape, right? But now it looks not much different than the way it was when I bought it. And I'll just paint this a nice bright yellow color, and it won't be hard to lose. I'll just set it here with the other stuff I've worked on in the garage. Next up is this pickaxe with the handmade handle. I got a video where I make this handle. And it's been weathered and it's been used and it's been, you know, forgotten and neglected and so on and so forth. So I think a little therapy, little makeover wouldn't hurt. And this isn't going to take long at all, because I mean, all I'm going to do is hit the metal with this sanding sponge, paint it nice and shiny black, the metal, and just linseed oil the wood. I'm just using the sandpaper to get whatever dirt or rust or whatever is on the metal. Doesn't take a lot of time. I mean, I don't know why more people don't do this sort of stuff. Aside from just keeping busy, I mean, it just takes so little to maintain a tool. And you can oil things and you can do stuff like that too. But, you know, I find a quick layer of paint on a tool is just, you just, you know, in my opinion anyway, you're less likely to lose it if that's what you do, because it just stands out that much more. It's that much more distinct. And you can use outrageous colors, but really, if you just make the last little bit of the handle a bright color, like an orange or a yellow or even a red, you're less likely to lose that thing. All right, there's that. Now we'll just make this end part black. This head hasn't, remember I made this handle out of a spruce tree from my backyard. The head is not needed to be refitted. It hasn't slipped, it hasn't lost position from where I hung it originally. It's been, you know, just, you know, despite, you're not going to see too many people fit a pickaxe on a spruce handle, but this handle's been completely reliable since day one. No complaints with the spruce handle. I'm not saying it's good wood for handle, because anyone that knows anything would say it isn't. But it's perfect. You know, if you can get it for free, and it maybe took me, I don't know, let's say the better part of an hour, give or take, to put this handle on. So, free handle, hour of my time just doing a little really basic woodworking. Not, you know, really to me, not not much of an investment in time and effort for something, completely functional. Yeah, that's nice, right? Now, if I was being, very, very fussy, like if I was doing professional work, I wouldn't be painting and linseed oiling these at the same time. But that's the great thing about working on your own stuff. You can do that. You can break the rules, right? So, and it doesn't matter that you're breaking the rules. I'm not going to tell anybody. You going to tell anybody? I'm going to tell anybody. I love the way the wood looks after you put the stuff to it. I mean, all I'm going to do, I got a stump over here, so I'm just going to drive the pick part into the stump. And that pick part, the paint's not going to stay on the tip of the pick anyway. Right, that'll from use. I use this a fair amount during the growing season for various things. I find it to be, this might be one of my favorite tools. The versatility of it. I mean, it's good for weeding. It's good for breaking soil up. It's really a great all-around tool. Now again, I'm going to leave the last 6 inches of this with nothing on it, just to so I can put some yellow there. The last little bit of the handle down here, right? The last, I don't know, the last 3-4 inches or whatever will be yellow. That way it's just that much harder to lose. Look at that. Beautiful. Now let's take the rag, give that a wipe. So I mean, yeah, we're putting some on, we're taking some off, but no big deal. When you do it this way, you don't get as much of this stuff on your hands, right? So there's an argument for that. Well, yeah, look at that. Isn't that nice? How long did that take? No time at all. That tool is ready to rock for, right? It's ready for a little bit of the paint bled into this. That's fine. I don't care, right? But yeah, that's ready to rock for 2021. Just put that aside. Next up is this pickaroon. I had the head of this yellow, but usually the head's down in the ground and you don't see it. Really, it's important to have the handle yellow. So I think I'm going to do the same thing with this one as I have with the others and make the head black, mainly because I just like the way it looks. This one here's got a bit of rope here. You see that? That's just because the odd time you miss. And so it's to protect the wood. I mean, there's different ways to do that. People have metal stuff here. Some people use duct tape or electrical tape. But I find this, rope holds up pretty well. And the reason I'm doing this is because I leave a lot of these tools out for a good deal of the growing season. They just get left out. Things happen. The kids, kids get my attention or whatever. And things just get forgotten. So not really that big a deal. I think I'm going to linseed this one later. Oh, maybe not. But anyway, let's see here. Get the nice paint on that. Nice to get everything looking new. I feel like this is like the Bob Ross version of gardening. Both my kids are very artistic and like to paint and they like to draw. My daughter likes to paint and draw a lot. So they're big fans of Bob Ross, and they're always kind of mystified when he's doing something and the image transforms from something very hard to recognize to something, visually stunning, just because of his mastery of color and so on. I have no such talent. I wish I did. I wish I'd worked on that a bit when I was younger, but it wasn't my interest at the time. But I did spend years learning the trade of painting. I actually put myself to university as, for the most part, as a painter. Not like, decorative, but like painting, office buildings and, industrial stuff and houses. I mean, basically anything, right? But mainly using a brush and a roller. I did some, degree of work with sprayers and stuff like that, and but mainly brush and roller type work, old school. All right, so there's that. I guess I can hold this here so it's not a big deal. Put the linseed oil to this. And this didn't need much work, really. But I mean, every layer of, think about a tree in nature. It's got its own resins, its own sap, right? The tree has a way of healing itself. And then once you, cut a tree down and use the wood for something, it loses that ability. But you can simulate that by simply, oops, took a bit of that paint off there. You can simulate that by just, giving it a lick of something like this. I mean, as I've said before, I prefer this to varnish. Varnish tends to leave things very shiny, and you don't want that. It's another reason why I'm sort of putting this on and wiping it off. So I'm treating the wood with a substance that is good for it and prevents rot, and will to a certain extent dry. It's volatile to a certain extent, so it will dry, right? But what I've done here will not leave the tool slick and shiny such that it causes blisters and it's slippery in the hand. It's kind of a flat finish, right? So that's why I do it that way. Actually, there's a little bit of white paint on here, and my fastidious nature just will not abide that. So a little bit of linseed on there. Another wipe off, wax on, wax off type deal. There we go. Pickaroon, ready for 2021. That's all that's required. And finally, I got this pitchfork, which I guess I should hit this. It's red down here, but I'm going to make it black, and I'm just going to give the tines a bit of paint too. Why not? It only takes a minute. I mean, they were black when I bought them, so why not restore them to that state? All right, we don't have to be too fussy here. I actually don't. My main issue with this pitchfork is that it's got this really short handle, and it comes up to my navel. I don't know who they make these things for. I mean, why would you want a handle so short that you have to stoop and bend so much? I don't get it. All right, that's all that's required. Yeah, I'm gonna just make this area black here. I'm not gonna go all the way to the bottom of the tines. It's just too far away. I remember a story about when I was a painter, they'd tell a story about they always tell a story about I imagine most trades have this sort of thing where they, in the painter context, the smart painter and the stupid painter, right? So they tell a story about the guy they hire to paint, I think it's paint railroad ties, which I don't think anyone ever did. But anyway, they hire this guy, Strong Country Bumpkin or whatever, to paint railroad ties. And the first day, he paints 10 miles of railroad ties. And the foreman's amazed. 10 miles? My God, no one's ever done that. That's incredible. You come back tomorrow, son, and you've got a career. You're a born painter, So the next day he goes to work, and he only does about 6 miles of railroad ties. He, at the end of the day, says, "Oh, sorry there, boss. I worked really hard, but a lot harder today. I only got 6 done." The boss is like, "You know what? 6 is still pretty good. I mean, not too many guys can do 6 miles in a day. That's fine. Like, fine by me. You keep coming back. You're a good worker." The third day he comes back. He does 1 mile, and the boss says, "How in the hell did you go from doing 10 miles to 6 miles to 1 mile? I mean, I can't keep you on if you're only doing 1 mile a day. That's not much use to anybody. Tell me, like, how did you go about your work?" And the guy says, "Well, it's hard to get much done. I got to keep walking back to the bucket to put it in. Walking back to where So what the painter was saying was that he wasn't bringing the paint bucket with him. He basically put his brush in the bucket, and then he'd walk to the railroad tie, and then he'd walk back to the brush and put it in, walk back to the railroad. So, the further he got from the bucket, the less work he was able to do. So it's a story painters tell each other to keep your paint bucket close to your brush, keep your roller tray close to your roller, minimizing the little micro tasks that you do in any sort of large operation. How many times you have to, how much paint you can put on the brush for every stroke. Let's say you put your brush in the bucket once and you get 5 strokes out of it. Another guy gets only 3 strokes for every time he puts his paintbrush in the bucket. Right? The guy that can get 5 strokes off is going to be a more productive worker. So that's the story they tell to teach you how to manage your time so you can be more effective. Because in that business, I mean, painters are kind of a dime a dozen in the sense that there's really few, they don't really think too much about firing you and replacing you. They can replace you tomorrow. They can replace you in a New York minute sort of thing. They don't really think twice about it. So that's the way they tell you that story to get that point across. That's looking pretty good. Nice, eh? Nice. All right, so we got that on. Now I'm running out of linseed oil, and this is the last tool I had I brought all this stuff in from the gardening shed this morning so it could thaw out, because all this stuff was, sub-zero at 6 a.m. when I took it out. Took it out of the gardening shed. So it's had all day to just sort of thaw out a bit. A lot of people miss, when you have a blue-collar job or, a physical job, and they miss that work. There's elements of doing that sort of work. I mean, I have a desk job now, and it's, relatively good working conditions, and, definitely not hard manual labor like I used to do. And there's elements I miss about hard manual labor. But I don't miss it so much that I'd ever go back to it. Let's put it that way. No, I don't miss it that much. It's better to have a good job with good benefits and, a contract and all that sort of stuff. Nice work if you can get it, right? All right, so that's about the end of our linseed oil. So that's about the end of this little session here, but I'm going to leave that handle. The handle's in pretty good shape, so I'm going to leave that. Actually, I just remembered now, this little part of the handle is wood. I don't know why they make that wood, but I think I've got just enough linseed oil left. Just enough, well, half linseed, half turpentine, to give this little bit of wood here a little bit of a pick-me-up, a little bit of a shot in the arm. Bring that wood, save it from deteriorating next season. There we go. Give that a little bit of a wipe. All right, that's it. Give this part a wipe again because I sort of wiped it off a bit. Well, yeah, it looks pretty darn good compared to what it looked like before. Right? So, I don't know how long that took, but that's 4 tools. One of them, a shovel, I did off camera before. I just came out here to do this, and I decided to turn the camera on and talk through it because I thought people might find that interesting. And you know, it's really not that big a deal. But yeah, I did one of my shovels first. I just did the handle. I might do the actual spade part later on. But anyway, I did one of my shovels, and I thought, oh, why don't I do a bunch of tools on camera and just show people how I go about doing that, how it's not that big a deal. You know, you need a little bit of rust paint, a little bit of. I mean, you don't have to use, so this is boiled linseed oil and a little bit of turpentine, about 50-50. You don't have to go exactly that ratio, but that's the ratio I like, about 50% linseed oil, 50% turpentine. I find if you do it that way, and if you have it inside overnight, it'll pretty much dry overnight. Whereas if it's 100% boiled linseed oil, it takes a lot longer to dry. And when you water it down with the turpentine, it really gets into the wood there, which is what you want. You want it to be more of a stain and a wood preservative than a wood coating. But anyway, I hope you found that interesting. Just a little bit of rambling and storytelling and tool cleaning and that sort of thing. In the nice cold garage. What's the temperature? 5 degrees Celsius. So, hope you found that interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe, and until next time, get out there, get at it. Have fun in your garden. Fix up your tools. Thanks for watching.